Welcome back to our channel, and hopefully you're doing well wherever you are. We are in our little YouTube studio, aka the basement. But this corner here, we've just finished painting it matte black, a piano black, I think it was. Anyways, obviously inspired by Becky and Chris. If you don't know them, definitely check out their channel. Yeah, just really good content creators and interior designers as well. They have great stuff and great taste. So anyways, I really like their black look and that darker, moodier theme. So here we are. I don't know if you can see here, there's an empty space and some holes I didn't fill up too well. But anyways, I want to put a Atomic Pixel sign over there in kind of a gloss black. So I don't know how we'll do that just yet. Maybe some foam core and some paint. I have an idea, but we'll see if it comes to fruition. So other than that, I think the lighting setup's pretty good. You know, let me know what you think. And if you guys have a YouTube studio, by all means, let me know, because we'd love to check it out, get ideas. And I think our spaces are always evolving, right? So it's something that's just fun to, to work on and to add to. Anyways, today I want to talk about the Fujifilm setup. So how I set up my Fujifilm cameras, my XT3 and the xh1. Kind of going through all the buttons, the layouts, what I do with them. Also something that I see with new Fuji users. Not everyone's aware that you can actually change the front and back dial to your ISO and your shutter speed. So that way it's more like a traditional DSLR, and you can shoot a lot quicker, obviously, for weddings or events, things that, are on the go and you need to capture those moments. You don't have to use these physical dials. You can actually use the front and back command dials, and so we'll get into that. And also something that I don't see people talk about a lot either is how to manual focus with autofocus. So hope it makes sense. But again, I'll show you in a little bit. But basically, you get the best of both worlds. So you get to see the focus peaking of manual mode, but you get to also use the autofocus of the camera to lock you in to where you need. And I find it really useful for video especially. So anyways, we'll get to that in a bit. And lastly, I just got myself a new MacBook Pro 16-inch. This guy has been a beaut so far. It's a lot faster than my old computer. I came from a 2013, 15? I'll double check. Anyways, 2015, I think, 15-inch MacBook Pro. And the 16 has been amazing. The touch bar, just all the little stuff that the older generations didn't have, I'm finding really useful and really cool to use. So, but I do want to use this for about a week or two, probably about 2 weeks, and then I'll do a video on it. I want to give it kind of a good rundown, use it everyday use, and give you my feedback from actual experience. So stay tuned for that in the future. But yeah, anyways, let's get into it. All right, let's start by going into the main menu, and we'll set these command dials. So with new Fuji users, they don't know that you don't have to use these. Like, these are nice. I mean, to me, it's part of the retro aesthetic and what I do enjoy about it. And, I can visually see, but you don't have to use these dials, because on days where you're doing, let's say, a wedding or certain events, you got to be quick. So using these command dials, the front and back command dials, is a lot quicker. For me, I set this back one to shutter speed and the front one to ISO, and then the aperture is on the actual lens itself. So for me, that trio is right there, nice and easy, real quick to make the changes. So in the menu, we'll go up to button dial settings, and then we'll go down here, you find command dial settings, and then there you go. So the front one here, it is aperture when you use something like the 18-55. When there's no aperture dial on one of the Fuji lenses, it'll default to that. But otherwise, for me, it's sorry, here it is. So it's set for ISO. So that command dial on the front command dial, you see there, set for ISO. And then the rear is for shutter speed. But you can change it to whatever you want. You know what I mean? If you want it inverted, or sorry, just reversed, you can definitely change it. Totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. But that's nice and easy for me. So that way, if I was going to make some changes, real quick, you see it here. I'll just focus here for a second, so it's not so distracting. But yeah, you can see down there. Sorry. So you can see down there, shutter speed, nice and easy. And the front dial is my ISO. It just makes for quick adjustments, and yeah, truthfully, that's it. And to be able to actually use that on the top here, I don't know if I'm in focus or not, probably not. You'll want to make your dials to T there and automatic here on the shutter. And then that'll allow you to use the command dials properly. Okay, let's go into the function buttons. So hold the display back button, and here you'll be able to change all your settings. So the left side for me is film simulation, because I like to change it up. The top one here is just quickly to jump into the high speed recording modes if I want slow-mo real quick. The right side is white balance. The bottom one is auto ISO. So if I'm just shooting, say like a gathering, a party, or just walk around, I'll just put it on automatic. I'll change this top to automatic instead of T. T is for the command dials. Automatic is automatic. And that way, aperture priority mode, I control the aperture, the ISO, but the shutter speed takes over on its own. And in this case, the ISO is automatic, so it'll take over there. I don't use any of the swipe functions on the screen because when you're using the viewfinder, your nose touches things. It shifts things around and whatnot. So it's too much for me. So I just take that off. And auto white balance lock. So this is cool for the XT3 if you're doing more so for video. But what happens is, let's say, because right now I'm in auto white balance. If I hit that, see how the little blue box came up, auto white balance lock. If I hit that and I hit record in video mode, it'll hold that white balance, and that way it won't shift on you. So instead of you using the, the manual modes here or setting what you want, you can rely on auto, which is nice and easy if you want some quick shots. If you like the white balance, because generally the white balance is pretty good, the automatic white balance. So then you just press that, hit record, and it holds that white balance in during the duration of that shot. And the last one here, so this is cool. So I don't see a lot of people talk about this, but it's back to what I was mentioning about the manual and autofocus all in one. So right now you can see, and I used it before, so I don't know if you noticed, but you can see the red outlines there. So the focus peaking is on. So that means in the front here, I'm in manual mode. Okay, so what that allows me to do is, for example, I'm focused there, and let's say I want to focus on the watch. And I find this useful more so in, actually for both, for product when I do macro shots or when I'm doing locked on shots for video. What I'll do is, this one here is just autofocus and auto exposure lock is what I've set this button to. So I'll quickly show you here. So the AF lock is what I set this button to. And what that does is when we're in manual mode, I can press this and it autofocuses. Let's say I'm shooting video and I want to do a product shot and I want to do kind of a hover around. What I'll do is I'll find that focus, lock it, perfect, and then do my shot. So this is useful because yes, you can manually adjust, but it takes time. And if it's a stationary object, it's just so much quicker for me to just go boom. I also use this in, let's say I'm doing shots of someone where I want to make a GIF. Let's say they're in a stationary position, but they're going to jump or they're going to move somehow, but they're in one position. You can do autofocus continuous, or I can just lock them on like this. I know they're not moving from that plane, and then when they jump, say it's a jump shot, they jump. I'm just hitting the shutter as they jump because they're not really moving off that plane, and then there you go. For macro shots, I have a tutorial that I'm going to be creating. I did some macro shots of this watch actually, but what I did was with the macro, it's nice because I can just use the autofocus to zoom in, and then from there, once I'm in, I know what's in focus. Because with macro, every tiny little adjustment can make a big difference. So yeah, getting to where you need first, and then you could always fine tune if you need to later on. But it's just, I don't know, it's something really, that's really useful. And I don't know, yeah, no one's ever really talked about it, or I haven't really seen it. Maybe people don't use it as much as I do, but for me, it's nice to have both because I like to see the focus points, the focus peaking there, but also being able to use the autofocus in the camera. So yeah, a bit of both, best of both worlds for me. Let me know if that was helpful. If not, you could ignore that part. The top I have for my shutter options. So most of the time I'm shooting mechanical or kind of the mechanical and electronic together. Sorry, this one, mechanical and electronic together, especially outside, because then if you're shooting a low aperture, your electronic shutter can kick in and compensate and hit shutter speeds that are a lot higher than your mechanical can. But then what's really useful is just the full electronic shutter, especially when I'm doing weddings, so ceremonies, or maybe if you're, shooting like baby sleeping, that kind of thing. That sounded really weird, but yeah, anytime where you needed to, a quiet scenario and, you don't want to disturb people or the moment, electronic shutter is perfect. Even street photography, right? Like you don't want people noticing and you want to be unobtrusive, then that's the way to go. So having that quick adjustment here is really nice. And then lastly, the button in the front here, I use it mainly for my interior photography shots. It's the meter here, so that way your horizon stays straight. You know what I mean? So yeah, that way when it's on the tripod, you know that, the lines and the verticals, the keystoning as they call it, will all be good. And the other thing I find is useful is the My menu. So that allows me further adjustments other than just the quick menu. It's a different one. So yours right here, see how I'm on my menu? That might be blacked out for you if you haven't set it up just yet. So you go into the spanner, go into user settings, and then My menu. And from here, you go to add items and then slowly go down and choose the ones you want to add. And then you'll go to the right and it'll just add it. But I'll show you what's in mine. So as you add them, what happens is the quick menu is nice just for that kind of stuff. But the way it, you view it, it's, if you like it, you like it. For me, not as much. So I don't really touch this menu as much. What I do is I usually jump into here, and what I'll change is definitely the frame rate here. So that's a nice quick easy adjustment, whether I want to go from 60p or 24, that kind of thing. Or I'll jump in and quickly turn on or change the image settings. You can add whatever you want as a quick menu. So yeah, that's an extra option. So that way you're shooting, you go boom, My menu, it'll take you instantly to kind of your short list that you've created, and then off you go. Let me show you my settings for the simulations. I usually actually shoot in Eterna, or I'll jump to Chrome. So right now we're in Chrome, but even for Eterna or Chrome, this is what I do. So usually it's a -2 and a -2 on the highlights and shadows. And then maybe a color I'll just leave, or maybe -1. Sharpness I leave at 0. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then with the LCD, I do turn it up to 0.2. So I'll show you there. It's just the brightness of the LCD itself. I find about a 2 is nice. Kind of balances out what you would see in camera. I guess while we're on it, the other thing too, coming from Nikon, I used to underexpose images and give myself room to lift. But I find with Fuji's, it actually works better when you're at 0 or overexposing, just a touch. So for instance, and then I also make sure that my histogram is on. So I'll get back to that. But anyways, so you notice here, I'm just in the matrix mode, and it says I'm just a little bit under 0. So if I'm gonna actually take the shot at 2.5. So anyways, if I was taking the shot for real, it would probably be like something like there, 125. And then I would actually crank the light up a little more. But anyways, just for this sake of argument here, or a demonstration. So forget the actual settings, but just look at the metering for now. Here it says it's at 0, and to my eyes and to the LCD, it might look a little overexposed. And so normally, when I first started shooting Fuji, I would shoot something like maybe this, and then thinking, okay, in post, I'm just gonna lift the shadows, right? Or the exposure. But what happens is the Fuji files, they just come a little too dark. And then when you lift, it gets a little too grainy. So instead of lifting the shadows and, you know, running into grain, you're better off, or in the synthetic grade, you might as well take the real grain that comes out of the ISO here, or the in-camera stuff. And it looks quite nice. Anyways, so don't be afraid to shoot a little higher. And so in this case, if I were to shoot it, again, disregard this, I'm just showing you on the on-screen stuff, I'd probably shoot it like half a stop to one stop over, even though it looks maybe too bright. The highlights are only starting to clip now, so in actuality, that'd be pretty good. And then I could always add contrast or bring the shadows down a little bit in post. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, with Fuji's, I find the files just work better if you do overexpose a little bit. As far as my screen, I make sure the histogram is on. I find that's really useful. I'm getting, you know, I never really used it before, to be honest, but now getting more into video work and that kind of thing, I definitely need to use it, because obviously these cameras don't have false color, and other like vector scopes are like more advanced video metering. So taking a look at that and trying to make sure that the bulk of your images, so you know, you don't want your shadows too clipped there, obviously I am, and then you don't want your highlights blown out, and obviously it is there. So for me, I kind of aim to have the bulk somewhere in the middle, if not a little to the right. So then eventually, you know, with that compared to my metering, that's when I know I'm in the right range. All right, guys, so that's it. So that's how I set up my Fujis. If you have a different setup, or maybe there's something I should try, by all means, let me know. If you find it helpful, by all means, please help us out and subscribe. And if not, then hopefully maybe a future video will be more helpful. Okay, guys, stay healthy out there, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.